The cities of San Francisco and Berkeley, California, vote tomorrow on whether to impose a tax on sugary drinks. It's aimed at arresting the explosion of diabetes and obesity. In San Francisco, voters will decide whether to add a 2 cents per ounce tax on sweetened non-alcoholic drinks. Manufacturers say that would add almost $3 to the price of 12 cans of pop. 2/3 of voters would need to agree to this. Berkeley is looking at a 1 cent an ounce tax. It only requires a simple majority to pass that tax. Now, the industry has been fighting back, saying that it's an unwanted burden on already taxed to the max consumers. They're talking about voluntarily cutting 20% of the calories in the drinks by 2025 anyway. The tax idea has been tried before in the U.S., so far without a lot of success. But Mexico and France have implemented versions of the tax, and both saw soda sales fall as a result. Felix Salmon, a senior editor at Fusion, he has today's last word. Felix, you're sitting in the city. Michael Bloomberg tried to do the giant drink tax. It seems to me that in a place like America, you run up pretty quickly in people's individual rights and freedoms, and the laws of most places don't really take kindly to this kind of thing.
It's true. These specific, what we call Pigovian taxes, these like taxes on bad things which cause bad things to society, do not go down well in America, which is why you're seeing these things in very liberal cities first. It failed in New York, now we're trying in Berkeley, which is even more liberal. Might succeed there, but I doubt this is going to catch on more broadly.
So the idea here is, and we have so-called sin taxes on alcohol and tobacco, governments become quite addicted to them because oftentimes people continue to consume those things, and so it just raises a lot of money. The idea, though, I think, is a kind of a paternalistic one, and I think that's what people respond to. It's sort of saying, we know what's good for you, we want you to consume less cola. It's not about raising revenue, it's actually about changing behaviors.
Well, it's also about saving money. The idea is that if people drink less sweetened drinks, then the cost of treating diabetes is going to go down. And this is a major cost on society, which all of us have to shoulder. And so it's one or the other. Either you raise revenue and that helps pay for the increased medical costs, or you don't raise the revenue, which is a better outcome, and the medical costs go down, and you save money that way.
So in terms of what happens next, and we have seen jurisdictions, the Mexican one is a good example where you do see this big decline. But the soda makers are saying, we're working on this. We know it's a problem. We know people are more health conscious. We're trying to come up with formulations. The ones they've tried so far just taste bad for those of us who grew up with the sugary versions. Do we really need to wait till 2025 before they come up with low-cal versions of these drinks?
Well, they already have come up with low-cal versions of the drinks. It's not like Diet Coke and Coke Zero and Pepsi Max, all these things, they exist already. So the question is just one of how to get people to drink those versions of the drinks rather than the sugary versions of the drinks.
So in terms of where this does go, if this passes into law, do you think this will spread across America? Is this the kind of thing that other jurisdictions, you say these are very liberal jurisdictions, will other places look at it with envy and say, we want to try to do that too?
Yeah, it will spread all the way to Portland, Oregon. But seriously, it will spread amongst a very small number of coastal liberal cities. There's no way this is going to fly either nationally or even in most states.
Would you agree that often when policy tries to force changes to big food, the unintended consequences happen? You think about things like we wanted to take some of the fats out and suddenly food became saltier because we're very simple creatures, we humans, and if you take one of the pleasure senses away, we want to replace it. Are we going to find some, drinks are not going to be loaded with some other toxic thing?
Well, there is some evidence, weirdly, which shows that if you switch from sugary cola to diet cola, you don't actually lose weight. That if you wind up drinking a lot of diet cola, then that forces you in some weird psychological way to eat more and to ingest those calories which you lost from the sugar some other way. So it's not entirely clear that if we pass this law, suddenly, we'll be living in a wonderful utopia of post-diabetes. These things are much more complicated than that, but it probably helps at the margin.
All right, I'm going to give you 30 seconds for this one, though. We had this terrible, tragic accident with Virgin's space flight, its efforts to take tourists to space. Is this going to rock this whole industry? Do you think that investors will get freaked out and that this will slow down the whole progress to space?
As far as I can make out, there's one investor. His name is Richard Branson, and he's selling this crazy experiential thing of sending people up into the stratosphere. It's not really space. You know,
Right.
he'll do that. It's a tiny, tiny market of a few dozen people. They'll do whatever they want to do.
All right, Felix Salmon, you've got the last word. Thanks for being with us.